Hey guys, it's Keaghan. Welcome back to my channel. This is your Friday the 13th full moon reading. I'm actually doing this reading on Friday the 13th. It is a little bit before 6:30 p.m. Pacific time as I'm sitting down to record this. So most of you will actually be seeing this probably on the 14th, but that's fine because this is a reading focusing on the energy immediately following this full moon. I hope that you guys survived the full moon well and intact. I can personally say that I have had people popping up left and right from the past. And I have mixed feelings about that. So if you are also having people showing up, let me know that in the comments. I'm curious. I'm going to go ahead and switch you guys over to a different camera angle really quickly to let you guys see what we're going to be focusing on with this reading. I'm going to use this handy dandy little thing here. We're going to first talk about the pain of both the viewer and the other person. So you listening to me right now, watching this video, would be the viewer. We're going to move then talking about the fear of the viewer, the other person's fear. We'll then talk about the hope of the viewer as well as the other person's hope. And then any unknown issues or fears that exist between these two people, the obstacle in the path, any advice that we might have. We'll also take a look at the overall energy as well as pulling an oracle card for divine insight. So that's what this reading is going to focus on. If you are interested in that, please stick around. And when we come back from this brief little musical moment, we will actually dive into the reading and start pulling some cards. So, as I mentioned, this reading is happening actually on Friday the 13th for the full moon. This is going to represent what is coming immediately following the full moon. I'm going to make this pretty quick. I'm going to try to go through it fairly quickly for you guys. So let's switch back over to the card spread. I'm going to temporarily just clear the decks here. Let you guys actually see the cards being shuffled. I know some people get fairly paranoid about this. I don't quite understand the reasoning behind that. Really quickly, before I go here, I want to just show you guys this. Can you see that? It's a KeaghanTarot ring. All the jewelry that I wear, I've mentioned this before. If you go to Instagram, there's an account there, Just the Charm. That is who makes all of the rings that I wear. Lots of people ask in the comments about the various rings that I wear, and I always forget to mention anything about them during the video. I do put the link to the Instagram in the description box generally, but to try to save on some of those comments that people leave about the rings, I just wanted to let you guys know where you can find out more information about them. But I think this is awesome. This was a special gift from them as just a cool little thing. I'm obsessed with it. I don't know for sure. I think that the lighting is struggling with these candles. I'm going to do something very quickly just to try to adjust this a little. There we go. If you notice these as well, these cool scorpions, those are also a gift from Just the Charm on Instagram. I am a Scorpio, for those of you who don't know. I'm not sure why the lighting is going in and out, but we're going to hope that after some cards go down, that's going to resolve itself. So I'm going to just put some things back up here for me, just for my own benefit. And I'm going to do a couple of cuts. You'll notice that's overlaid on the cards. But I feel like the cards are pretty much ready. In fact, this is going to be our overall energy. I'm just going to take the rest of these cards, put them into position. How have you guys been? I feel like some of you are very engaged and talk to me and interact with me in the comments. Some of you guys are lurkers, are not subscribed to the channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, I will let you know you do miss some interactions with me because the community tab on the channel is only open to subscribers. And I do put things up there in terms of polls and questions that I have for you guys. So if you are not subscribed, you probably have not seen those. So it's a reason to subscribe to the channel. I'm going to leave this space here just open right now. I'm going to be using this oracle deck. This is The Universe Has Your Back. oracle deck. That's where we're going to get this, but I'm going to save that for the end. So let's go ahead and start flipping some cards over and taking a look at things. Let's see what the overall energy is here. Okay, so we have the Five of Cups coming out upright. So lots of regret here. There's disappointment. There's sadness around a relationship that has failed. And honestly, what I'm picking up the most here from this card is just a great amount of pessimism around relationships and love in general. It's pretty heavy too. It's a feeling of they're not worth it. I don't want to deal with it. Nothing good has come from it. It really has this intensity to it, which honestly, if I think about myself and people that, are in my life, my friends, that, we've talked about it, I think this is actually pretty common right now. I think a lot of people have had some fairly intense interactions when it comes to relationships. And as they're coming out of them and they're starting to heal and they're actually starting to feel a little bit more like themselves, there is a lot of energy that's happening that is just, I'm going to do me. I'm going to be solo. I'm going to do this on my own. I don't necessarily want to have to interact with another person. I just want to be with myself. Now, usually with this card, this is where I would, let me see if this will focus on it here, because, this is the card. Sorry about that overlay. But if you see here, let me just turn that off for a second. If you see here, this is the card. It's always sort of depicted this way, where there are 3 cups that have spilled. The person is focused on that. There's still 2 cups here that are full. And most of the time with this particular card, the message is to, take a look at where, you still have something to focus on, right? Look at the good. Don't focus on what's been lost. Look at what still remains. But what I get from this, before seeing any of the other cards or knowing what's going on here, energetically, I feel like those 2 cups really represent focusing on self-love and self-care, really focusing on being solo for a while, being just on your own, focusing on what you want, focusing on your own things, not necessarily wanting to be bothered with a connection with another person. So that's what I'm getting energetically. I'm really curious to see what comes out with the other cards to see if they align with that. So I'm going to flip the top 2 cards over. Again, this one represents the person listening to me right now. This represents your pain. This is going to represent the other person's pain. Okay, so coming out for the person listening to me, we have the King of Wands. It is reversed. And for the other person, we have Temperance coming out upright. Now, this is interesting, and I'm trying to think of how I want to interpret this, because in terms of a source of pain, what I'm feeling is I don't necessarily want to make this be a pain regarding, mostly because of the energy that came out of this. I don't want this card, for example, to mean how this person hurt you. That's not how I intend these cards to be. What this represents is the place where you personally feel the most pain in terms of the aftermath of this. Whatever this connection was, whatever this interaction was, the pain that you're carrying forward with you is the King of Wands reversed. And what I'm getting from this card is that for you, the person listening to me right now, you had some pretty high expectations in terms of this relationship, and you went into it fairly hastily. It was a very impulsive move. I think that you felt that there was the connection here that just pulled you in spite of yourself. You found that you were in a relationship. This connection was way too powerful for you to resist, and you had really high hopes about it. And ultimately, in the end, those expectations weren't met. Now, for the other person, their source of pain is Temperance. This is a very interesting energy to come out in terms of a sense of pain. What I feel like this other person has walked away from this connection really burdened by is this this knowledge, this insight that they have a hard time being balanced. They have a hard time being moderate. They're either all in or they're all out. There's no middle ground. There isn't really a lot of room for them to, how do I, so it's hard for this person to exist in the gray. They're very black and white. And what they're realizing is that not being able to have this middle ground in terms of their thinking, not being able to look at something and really see the balance between the person, knowing that someone can, be both good and bad. I'm using quotes, you can't see me, but good and bad. It's almost like when something goes wrong, this person is very, like the world is ending. They can't have anything, even the smallest little thing. If there was a disagreement, if there was an argument, if there was some sort of, not even like a fight. I'm not even talking about an actual fight, but just a disagreement over something, or realizing that maybe like the two of you didn't see eye to eye on a topic, it would send this person into a tailspin where they just felt like, we're completely mismatched. There's no hope here for this relationship. What are we even doing? But I think after this has come to an end, this person is really, they're struggling with this. They're really having a hard time processing that this is how they think, because this relationship highlighted this for them in a very big way. Because I think ultimately they also really wanted this to be a connection that could work, and felt like, again, like what I was saying here, from the beginning, there was a connection and they just rushed into it. I feel like both of these people just absolutely, with wild abandon, ran towards each other and really wanted to make it work. But then this person in particular, so this would be the other person for whoever's listening to me, they've walked away from it realizing, wow, me wanting this to work, me wanting to make this happen, me wanting this to succeed, me really caring about this person, that was not enough, because how I think about things, how I look at things, how I evaluate things caused the same problems that have popped up for me over and over and over again in relationships. Now, I want to take a look at the fears of these two people, because I'm really curious to see what's going on there. Okay. So for the person listening to me right now, in terms of your fear, you have the Emperor coming out reversed. This is really interesting in terms of a fear, because what's showing up here is that you really have a fear of being dependent upon another person. And anytime you feel that someone is getting close, when you feel like a relationship is starting to get very serious, it can often come across to you as being smothering. It can be too intense for you, and it's excessive. You really do want to, it's interesting that this King of Wands came out reversed for you in terms of the pain, because, the King of Wands, when it's upright, this is a very, passionate, engaged, sort of fiery energy. This is saying, like, okay, if it's too intense, if it's too much, if it feels too connected, if it's too serious, I start to freak out. Okay, this is the fear that's coming out for you, the person listening to me. Now, for this other person, the fear coming out for them is the Nine of Cups. It did come out upright. This is really kind of strange, because this is the card that represents like the wish come true. This is the dream come true card. But I do think that that is a fear of this person. So if they feel like, if I get what I want, if I get this person, if I have this relationship, if I have this connection, especially with this being the pain point for them, that lack of ability to exhibit that temperance energy, they feel like, I can't have this right now because I'm not ready for it. I can't be in this dream relationship. I can't be in this connection. I can't be with this person because I know I'm going to mess it up. That's their fear. So even though this is a very positive card, since it's come out in the space of their fear, what this represents is that they really do have a fear of finding the right person or getting into the right relationship, because consistently in their past, they have had situations where they've messed things up. They feel like, I don't want to have this and lose it, so I would rather just not engage with it at all. So let's take a look at these two cards. These represent the hopes of these two people. So for the person listening to me, you have the Three of Cups coming out upright. For this other person, you have the Ten of Cups reversed. Very interesting cards here. So let's talk about this Three of Cups first. So for the person listening to me, what I think, honestly, your hope right now is just to be able to be with your friends, be in places where you don't necessarily feel the need to. It goes back to this. You don't necessarily want to re-engage with this person. You don't necessarily want to re-engage with engage with anyone new. You're really wanting to just lean on your friendships, find ways of having fun, being in, leaning on other types of relationships that aren't romantic, really focusing in on being solo when it comes to romantic relationships, but really enriching your life with connections with other people. Now, for this other person, they have the Ten of Cups coming out reversed, and this is coming out in the place of their hope. So what I'm going to do with this is say that and this aligns with what's going on with this person so far, okay? They've become aware that a lot of times their relationships struggle. And the reason for that is because they really focus in a great deal on places where the relationship doesn't align. Instead of looking at, it goes back to what I was saying about this black and white thinking. So instead of being able to look at it and say, okay, well, we might not agree on these certain things, or we might not, what I want to do for fun doesn't necessarily align 100% with what they want to do for fun, or what we want out of the near future might not be 100% aligned. But we do get along in this way. We do see eye to eye on this. And how we're different might actually be good, because instead of making us, not right for each other, perhaps their strengths are places where I'm not as strong. Perhaps the areas where I'm really strong are places where they can lean on me. They're realizing that their inability to think that way, their inability to not focus on the places where the relationship doesn't align and where there isn't connection, has really cost them. And what they're hoping here is that they're able to learn this lesson and fix it. If you think about this, if this person could turn this Ten of Cups upright and actually embody this temperance energy, they would actually be way better off than they have been in relationships. And I do sense an awareness here. All of the cards for this other person, I do sense that they have an awareness. After coming out of this connection with the person listening to me, this other person is very, very aware. And this is also just the energy of this full moon, for me at least, in terms of what I'm picking up, is and I've been saying this in readings that I've posted. If you haven't watched my readings for the first part of September, go watch those. I actually think I'm going to let those stand for September, because that's the energy I'm still feeling. All of those readings have this theme of really unpacking and dealing with a lot of emotional stuff that we haven't been able to process and deal with. And I just feel 100% that this is what this person is going through. There is an awareness. If you had a question about whether or not they were even aware, they are aware, and they do want to do something about it. But I will say here, this is something that they know they have to do on their own, and it's important for you to know as well that they have to do this on their own. You can't help them with this. You can't really be involved with them while they're doing this work, because until they shift this, until they have a different way of thinking, all of the issues that existed between the two of you, they're going to exist. And those issues would exist with anyone. It's not just with you. It's anyone that they try to get involved with right now. All of these issues that they have would impact those relationships. If you could go back and look at the relationships this person has had in their past, it's the same sort of pattern, the same sort of thing over and over for them. But they are finally in a place where they're realizing it and they have insight into it, and they're wanting to try to unravel it and figure out how to make it different. Okay? So I want to look here at the unknown issue that exists between these two people. We have the Ten of Swords coming out reversed, and this is kind of interesting. So I think what might not be clear for either of the people in this immediately is that there is an issue which exists for both of these people in terms of allowing something to have an ending when it needs to have an end. A lot of times this can be a blind spot for people. And I want to talk a little bit about this because very often people will rationalize staying in toxic and unhealthy situations, and they use lots of tricks to try to do it, right? So they'll focus on the good times and say, we'll get back to that. They'll label it as something like a twin flame connection or some sort of soulmate connection to rationalize staying in something that isn't working, rationalize staying in something that's toxic and harmful to them. I feel like both of these people have that in varying degrees. I think for this person, it's a little bit less because they can be they can be quite black and white in their thinking. And so very often when there's one thing that's going wrong, they sort of check out and they try to run. But I do feel like this person is back and forth a lot. So they might say they're done and then come back, say they're done and come back. But for the person listening to me, I do pick this up quite a bit for you energetically. Not so much now because, as I mentioned at the top, you're sort of done with this and you're wanting to stay on your own. But I feel part of that is because you are starting to develop an awareness that you have stayed in some situations that were bad for you. And you're looking back on them now and realizing that there were lots of signs along the way for you that you should get out, that you should leave, that this wasn't what you thought it was, that this wasn't working for you, that this was harming you, and you made the choice to stick with it. And you're really starting to ask yourself, why? Why would I do that? Where does that come from? What is the motivation for me there? Let's take a look at the unknown fear. Okay, we have the devil coming out upright. This is a very common card to come out in my readings in the place of fear for people. And that's very interesting to me on its own because if I went back and watched all of the readings that I've done for YouTube, I would say this card comes out quite a bit, and it usually does come out in a place of fear. Now, I labeled this as an unknown fear because I wanted to try to look at blind spots that might exist between these people. This card speaks to our shadow self. It speaks to areas where we have unhealthy attachments, where we can be codependent or addicted. It speaks to sexuality. And it also speaks to areas where we repress ourselves or restrict ourselves from expressing who we truly are and what we truly want. Now, that's a pretty broad category, but this is a place where I feel a lot of fear, but from both people. Really expressing what it is that you truly want, whether that is in terms of wanting to have independence, wanting a certain thing sexually, wanting to have, the ability to talk about. I'm hearing a conversation. Like, it doesn't feel like a conversation between two people, but like a conversation in someone's head where they're like, I really wish I could talk to them about this, but I could never do that. I could never talk to them about this. Okay, if you're in a relationship with someone and you've chosen to be in a romantic relationship with someone and there's a topic that you feel you can't discuss with them, you shouldn't be in that relationship with that person. That's just my opinion, but that is what I think. Ultimately, if you have that, if there isn't enough trust for you to discuss something with someone, then that person either hasn't earned it yet, or you just don't feel like they're going to be able to earn it. Okay? So I don't want to harp on this too much because I can actually sense energetically that you guys are maybe getting a little bit defensive about these two cards. But I just want to say to you, we all have areas where we need to grow. We all have areas where we struggle. We all have things that we need to unpack and look at. That's just part of life. That's part of the journey in itself. And between these two people, if you were drawn to this reading, if you clicked on the thumbnail, if you wanted to hear this, if you've made it this far into the reading without going away, this message is coming through for you. So I do want to just point out that I labeled both of these unknown issue, unknown fear. So it might seem like it doesn't, it's not something that you need to hear, or it's not something that applies to you, but just spend some time thinking about whether this might be a blind spot that exists. Okay. I want to take a look at the obstacle between these two people. We have the Ace of Coins coming out reversed. it's interesting because this card really represents a lost opportunity, and it's typically related to not planning well or not having the foresight to see what might happen that could derail it. And I do feel like that is an obstacle that exists between these people still. It's why I was saying earlier, there's not anything that can happen here in terms of this connection getting back on track, especially until this person deals with their things. But also, I think for the person listening to me, this solo time for you, this time of just focusing on yourself, not being engaged with other people, interacting with your friends, leaning on those connections, leaning on those people, and really depending upon them, that's really important for you. It's really important, I think, because of this energy as well. So the Emperor reverse, the Ten of Swords reverse, this Devil. If you want to go back and listen to me talk about the energy of these three cards, go back to that part of the video and listen to it. This solo energy and leaning in on these different types of connections and these different types of relationships, it is what's going to help you begin to heal this energy. For this other person, having this realization that they've had around how they think and the fact that they can get very black and white in their thinking, and any little warning sign makes them want to run, but then they come back, that dealing with that is what's going to help them heal with this energy. Okay? So I am going to go ahead and flip over the advice card. We have the King of Coins coming out upright. This is actually really interesting because what I feel this is saying is for both people, focusing in on getting their financial life more stable, more secure, more figured out, more locked in, really focusing on being disciplined around money and spending, and also the home. What I'm seeing here is someone really taking a lot of time decorating, maybe even moving into a different home, or a different, for some reason I want to say different style of home. That might be for very few of you, but focusing on the home in general, focusing in on your finances, your wealth. That might actually mean changing careers, moving to a different place, finding ways of making yourself feel more stable when it comes to your finances and your money is really going to alleviate some of the decisions that you've made about relationships. I think for a lot of people listening, you've made decisions about relationships based on a need to have another person in order to feel like you can survive and be secure. And if you can find a way of standing on your own and feeling, I'm fine on my own, I can take care of myself, I can cover whatever comes my way, I don't need to have another person in order to basically survive and feel like I'm safe, that's going to shift a lot in terms of what you will settle for or put up with when it comes to relationships. So that's what's come out here for advice. And I really feel strongly that, honestly, this is for both people. I don't feel like this is slanted towards either side for me. This just feels like advice overall. Now, obviously, for the person listening to me, you're getting this advice unless this person, unless you send this to them and say, you need to listen to this, or they watch it. They're not necessarily going to get this. But for the people who are listening to me right now, the more you can do to make yourself feel stable and secure when it comes to money and finances, you're going to realize that there's a lot that falls away in terms of the things that you have been willing to put up with. And it really feels like this Emperor reversed is connected to this, because it seems like a lot of times you feel that if someone has financial control over you, or if someone has more, if they're putting in more when it comes to the financial aspect of things, very often you feel like it gives them a lot of power and control over you and allows them to almost like dominate you. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to the Oracle deck. This is going to give us the Divine Insight. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I totally thought I had Do Not Disturb turned on my phone, and apparently I didn't, so a phone call disrupted the recording. I'm just going to give this a couple of shuffles. We'll pull this Oracle card out and then wrap this reading up. I actually just want to feel my way through and see what feels like it's your card. Have this one. Okay, so again, this card is going to represent insight that's coming through as almost like a divine message for you just around the situation. Let's take a look and see what we have here. So it says, when I'm connected to my joyful presence, I attract support from the universe. This feels very much connected to this and this. This desire to be sort of on your own, not dealing with relationships, but also reconnecting with your friends, reconnecting with relationships that are not necessarily romantic. That's what this feels like to me. Joyful presence is absolutely 100% how I would describe that vibe. And I think the more that you can do that, the more that you can lean into that and just enjoy being with your friends, making new friendships, doing things that are activities with other people, not necessarily being too concerned about whether it leads to anything, not necessarily being focused too much on romance or the aspect of, being in a relationship, so to speak. The universe is going to actually do a lot to support you with that and also to help you to navigate some of these things, do a lot of healing, get a lot of insight into yourself, and be prepared to really have something that's really healthy. May or may not be with this other person. I feel like regardless, whether it is with that person or with someone new, after you've gone through this experience of spending some time on your own, you're really going to be set up to be ready, willing, and able to have something that's very healthy, very secure, very balanced, and really something that feels pretty amazing. So I hope that you guys enjoyed that reading. I did go through it fairly quickly, so let me know in the comments below if I went through too quickly. I will take your feedback and try to adjust accordingly with the future readings that come out. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments what you thought, what resonated with you. If you have any other questions about the spread, you can let me know those in the comments as well. Please take a moment to give the video a thumbs up, and if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, take a moment to subscribe. It helps the channel grow. It also helps the videos to reach more people who need to hear the messages. I hope that your Friday the 13th went well. I hope that the full moon did not cause too much distraction, disruption, or chaos in your life. I'm actually going to take a moment, take a break before I edit this and upload it, to have some dinner and then maybe go try to see the full moon myself somewhere away from the glare of the city lights. So I love you guys so much. I thank you again for allowing me to do readings for you and for showing me love and support. It means a lot to me. I will see you guys for the next reading. Bye.